Happy Wealth Wednesday. I love the middle of the week. Hope you are all doing really, really well. I pulled a card this morning, which prompted a conversation about boundaries. And I thought this was a really great topic to talk about today because it applies to all areas of our life. And I'm telling you, when you embrace the boundary, you will allow yourself to exponentially grow. I swear. All right, so let's see. If you're new here, my name is Gwen, and I am literally designed to help you create a life that you don't feel like you need a vacation from. And all the areas of life that don't bring you joy, I help you see that you don't have to live them. You get to create a life that you design, which is a life that you desire, right? And break free from the societal box that we all feel like we're supposed to fit in, because that's what we've been taught our whole lives. We get to erase limiting beliefs that don't serve us and create new beliefs that catapult us into the world and allow us to figure out what our true purpose is and figure out exactly what we're here to do. So if that is for you, I welcome you. Boundaries. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go ahead, I always do this backwards, and click on the subscribe button to make sure that you get notified every time one of our live videos pops up. And if you're not already Inspired and Ready for More, I will leave the link for you to join there. These women are working towards creating a life they design. So again, if that is something that you have on your heart to do, if you're tired of living the way that you're living and you want more, that is the place for you. All right, let's talk about boundaries. So sometimes there's this confusion, like, what is a boundary? A boundary is simply just a rule, right? We get to make a rule for our own life. And if you're a people pleaser like me, I'm like a recovering full-time people pleaser, afraid to say no to anything, thinking that if I didn't do what someone asked me to do, if I didn't help where someone asked me to help, that I would never be able to receive. It would never come back to me. I always thought that because people asked me that I should, right? Because they kind of expected that of me, and I thought that I should help them. But when we create a boundary, and again, it's just a rule around your life and what you are intentionally creating in your life. When we create a boundary, you are loving yourself enough to say no to others' demands of your time and your energy. Because if you know energy at all, it's a huge part of our everyday life. Everything is living and has energy and vibrates, right? And our energies affect other people's energies, and other people's energies affect our energies. So when you say yes to something that you might not really want to do, but you're saying yes because you feel like you have to, what in fact you're doing in that moment is injecting like this poisonous energy into someone else's life. So you're not really helping them. If we think about it, you might think in your head, like, I'm going to go help them do this. But if you didn't want to do it, and you signed up just because you felt like you had to, you're actually putting out a negative energy, and that's this like toxic energy that not only you're surrounding yourself with now, but you're injecting in this other person's life that you are there to help, but you're not really helping because you're injecting this toxic energy into someone else's life. So the common myths about boundaries, people think like if we say no, that we can't then receive love, or that that's some sort of karma when we say no to helping somebody else because it doesn't actually fulfill us. It's gonna either stress us out or take us away from something else that we find purpose in doing, and helping them is going to be something that's not fulfilling to us. When we say no, people think that we're not going to get anything in return, that when we go to ask for help, people automatically think that they're not going to be able to get the help. But that's not true, right? People think that we must say yes in order to be able to receive help back. But I promise you, it's not the way the energy or the universe works. Because Don't you think there's a difference between giving of yourself and giving up yourself? I know that you can all think of somebody who in your life gives of themselves, and you never, ever, ever see them sit down. And you never, ever, ever see them do something for themselves. And maybe you've known them for years and you're watching their health go down, or you're watching how they physically look and they look tired. Can you think of someone in your life, and it might be you, and that's okay, because all we have to do is recognize it and then decide that we want to change it, right? But I know that we can all think of somebody who is doing, I can see the person in my mind right now. They give so much of themselves and don't allow time for themselves. So if you are feeling tired and guilty and resent when you sign up and you say yes to something that you shouldn't have said yes to, when you don't have a set boundary and you do something anyway, even though you don't want to, if you're feeling any of those things, those are signs that you're not truly helping someone, right? That you're actually injecting that toxic energy. Please let me know if that is you and you're like, oh my God, that's me, I'm recognizing, I'm gonna change it, or if it's somebody else in your life that you can just recognize those behaviors. And the thing is that if we're not knowledgeable about what boundaries are and how to set them, like I didn't know anything about boundaries really until I started to do more personal development work and read about them and listen to them and all that stuff. But if we're not aware of what boundaries are and we're not taught them, and this goes even with our kids, right? We can set boundaries with our kids. And here's what's going to happen when you respect your own boundaries, other people will respect them too. My kids are outside playing in the sprinkler on the trampoline. So if you respect your own boundaries, you set your boundaries and you start sticking to them, other people will respect them too. It might take time. It might take time for other people to recognize what you're doing. And you know what? Sometimes people don't have the mind capacity to recognize that. And it is possible that someone may say, oh my God, I can't believe Gwen said no to me. How dare her? They're not ready to understand and respect their own boundaries. And so they might not respect yours in the moment, and it might take time, but your true friends will surround you. Your true family members will understand exactly what you're doing. And not only will they respect your boundaries, but they'll start creating their own boundaries. And look at that cycle that you just created. Imagine if we could go forward in life creating that cycle of having boundaries, respecting your boundaries, and teaching other people around you to respect their boundaries. Because what happens when the people around you respect their boundaries, then they're going to teach somebody else to respect their boundaries, right? And it just keeps going and going and going. And we create this whole new world of people with boundaries, and it's beautiful. Because the world will function better when you are at your optimal energy, am I right? When you're feeling really good, when you're vibing really high, when you're in your element and you're clear on who you are and what your boundaries are, you function better. Because here's the benefits of having boundaries. It builds trust with you and yourself, and also with your closest friends and family, with the acquaintances that you talk to, with your work friends. It builds trust between those people. It keeps you from going into a state of overwhelm. I raise your hand if overwhelm has been a state in your life at any point. Like if you're a parent, I know that you've felt a state of overwhelm. If you work somewhere in a high demand industry, you've probably felt overwhelmed. A lot of times, I think when we have jobs, and especially now, where jobs feel sometimes scarce, right? Like, oh my gosh, these companies are figuring out that they don't need an office space and they might not need as many employees. So do you fear losing your job and your job is scarce, right? When we feel that way, we feel like we have to show up and say yes to everything, because if we don't, we fear we'll be fired. So living in fear is not a state that anyone should be or wants to live in, because it's going to decrease your energy. It's going to decrease your vibrations. You're not going to be able to show up. You will not be able to access your creativity, your full creativity. You won't be productive as much as you could be. You won't have time for self-care, which is the most important part of boundaries and protecting your energy. And you won't have energy physically, but also spiritually that surrounds you. Like attracts like. So if you're positive and your energy is positive and you protect yourself and your boundaries, you'll attract the people who do the same things. And guess what kind of relationships we'll build when we have people who respect each other's boundaries? They're really good ones. So you can look at setting boundaries in your work, in your home, in your family. If you work from home, boundaries are so important. So important, but also with our family, right? You can set boundaries and you might have to sit and write some down and be like, you know what? Like, okay, my work day is from 9 to 3:30. After that is family time. I don't get interrupted for work. I don't do Zoom calls. I don't do meetings. Those are my boundaries. And you know what? When someone reaches out to you at 7 p.m. by Facebook Messenger and then you don't respond and then they reach out to you by text and then you don't respond and they reach out to you by email and you still don't respond because you've set your boundary of 3:30 end of day. And then you get back to them the next day at 9 o'clock and you're like, oh, hey, yeah, sorry I missed your messages. I don't work after 3:30, but how can I help you now? That sets a new boundary for that person and that will never happen again. And now they know, here are your work boundaries. They won't expect you to answer after 3:30. And actually they'll stop messaging you after 3:30. And the more that you do that, the more people will respond to it, the better your day will go, the more creative you'll feel, the more productive you'll be, and you will live a life that you have designed, right? This is part of you taking your life and designing your life. So, gosh, boundaries, friends. If this is something that you feel is helpful to you and you want more of this, jump into Inspired and Ready for More. It's our free community, and I say our as in like me, myself, and I. Free community for you where women are choosing to level up their lives. They're choosing to create the life that they desire. They're choosing to live a life that they fall in love with and escape that feeling of box, right? Like go to work, get a job. And I'm not saying this is a space where we talk about quitting your job and working from home. Any job can be fulfilling. It is a matter of what you find fulfilling in your life. So Inspired and Ready for More is there for you to join us on a journey together, because we learn from each other on how to actually go ahead and go forth and find our purpose and be really clear on what we're supposed to do, what we love, how we can have fun, how we can love our jobs, right? And how we can set healthy boundaries. So I will leave that link for you guys. You can click on in and join, and I am happy to have you in there. I hope this was super helpful to you on Wealth Wednesday, and